Man, lately these high school wrestlers are giving us a little bit of a hard time because we got a real conundrum here. Who is the #1 pound-for-pound wrestler in the country? You look at the top 5 guys in the pound-for-pound list right now, they're all accomplished at the senior level, right? In that list, you've got Jax Forrest, Marcus Blaze, Bo Bassett, PJ Duke, Ladarian Lockett. They've all been winning matches at either World Team Trials on the senior level or Olympic trials. I mean, these guys are highly accomplished. Sorting between them is very, very difficult. And it's gotten even harder in the last few weeks because at the US Open, Jax Forest qualified for Final X. He won the US Open. And then just this last weekend at the World Team Trials Challenge Tournament, PJ Duke won that. So he's in Final X as well. We have 2 high schoolers on the men's side of things in Final X. And that's not even to get into the highly accomplished women's wrestlers, Everest Leidecker, all these other high-level women doing their thing too. But right now, we're concerned about #1 pound-for-pound boys high school. Most of the last year, Marcus Blaze has been the #1 pound-for-pound wrestler in the country for good reason. He was 3rd in the Olympic trials. That's insane. Went on, made the World Team Trials finals in a non-Olympic weight at 61 kilos. Also insane. He's just, he hasn't lost to high school competition. So he was a very clear #1 wrestler. However, after the US Open, Jax Forest took over the #1 spot pound for pound because he won a bracket that included Marcus Blaze, and he took out 2 NCAA champions in Nashawn Garrett and Seth Gross. Both are guys who have made senior world teams. Both are guys that are NCAA champions. Unbelievable. And by the way, Jax Forest already had a win over an NCAA champion in Nathan Tomasello at the Last Chance Olympic Trials qualifier a year ago. So those wins, that tournament performance, that launched Jax Forest into the #1 pound-for-pound spot. But now, PJ Duke is making a really strong case to be the #1 guy because he just took out 2 NCAA champs who won it this year. He beat Antrell Taylor and he beat Ridge Lovett at the World Team Trials Challenge Tournament. He also won in the finals over Bryce Andonian, which is another high-quality win, and punched his ticket into Final X. That raises the question, what do you do? 2 high schoolers in Final X, 2 guys with wins over multiple NCAA champions in the last month. How do you separate these guys? How do you parse between them? That's what I've been trying to figure out. I'll tell you what I've come up with, and you let us know in the comments what you think. Do you agree or do you disagree? All right, so the case for PJ Duke is strong. I've already laid out a lot of it. He beat 2 NCAA champs recently. Also, going back through the rest of his high school career, very, very few losses. PJ Duke is a guy that has just, he's won almost everything there is to win, and he just hasn't lost. His last losses against high school opponents came at the US Open in 2022. It's now 2025. We're 3 years later, and PJ Duke hasn't lost to a high school opponent in that span of time. The only potential slight notch down for PJ Duke is that he hasn't competed quite as much as Jax Forest has. He also hasn't had the same level of competition within his state. He's in New York. He's just basically been on a killing spree for his high school career. And that, has maybe prevented him from having some of the high-level opportunities against other high school opponents that Jax Forest has seen. PJ Duke undeniably is a #1 caliber wrestler pound for pound, but let's lay out the case for Jax Forest. Jax Forest competes everywhere. There are very few people that wrestle the level of competition that Jax Forest and the Bishop McCourt crew do. You look at the last year, Jax Forest, he has won, in reverse chronological order. He just won the senior US Open. He won his, PIAA title, second one that he's won in 2 tries. He got wins at all the elite high school tournaments during the season, including Ironman. He won Super 32. He won Who's #1. He won Fargo. He has just won everything. In fact, Jax Forest hasn't lost since the U20 World Team Trials last year, where he came into that tournament with a broken face after getting kneed in the eye, knee, nose, whatever, had to wrestle with a mask, lost to Luke Lillidahl in the best of 3. That's a guy that has so many age-level world medals, it's hard to keep track of. That's his most recent loss. He also fell at the US Open to Seth Mendoza a few weeks earlier. But remember, this was like within a week of him having won the Last Chance Olympic Trials qualifier, where he beat Nathan Tomasello, an NCAA champ. So hard to take that, that Seth Mendoza loss too much into account, especially because Jax Forest has avenged that loss twice since that time. He also beat Aaron Seidel 2 times in the last year, who's another one of the best high schoolers in the country. And he beat Jaden Rainey, who we've already seen is on the senior Greco-Roman world team. So Jax Forest has just racked up, elite wins at the high school level. So that's the case for Jax Forest. But if there's anything that maybe separates him, a little bit on the negative side, it's that he does lose occasionally. I've already mentioned, the losses to Lil Vidal and Mendoza. He had a loss during the regular season in his sophomore year last year. He avenged that loss by Tech in the state finals. But Jax Forest, because he's out in the streets, he does take a few more losses than PJ Duke does. Jax Forest also, by the way, competes in a ultra competitive weight class where he's got, multiple world team members that he's running into left and right. But think about it. I mean, PJ Duke, during that span of not losing, he beat LaDarian Lockett, who's also one of the top 5 guys pound for pound in the country. So both these guys, extremely high level, uber elite. I mean, they don't lose much and they win all the time. Ultimately, here's what it came down to for me in deciding between PJ Duke and Jax Forest. Jax Forest has those 2 wins over NCAA champs in the last few weeks, as does Duke. But the 2 guys that Forest beat have accomplished a little bit more on the senior level than the guys that PJ Duke beat. Duke beat Antrell Taylor and he beat Ridge Lovett. Both guys, incredible. I mean, we already mentioned it, NCAA champs this year. High schoolers don't do that. They don't beat those type of guys. PJ Duke did it. The guys that Jax Forest beat, Seth Gross and Nashawn Garrett, both have not only made world teams, but they've been in trials, finals, or Final X within the last couple of years. When Seth Gross made the world team, he was 5th in the world. He's still currently ranked in the top 20 in the world at 61 kilos. That's an elite high-level win. You look at Nashawn Garrett, that's a guy who's been ranked in the world over the course of his career. And by the way, if you're saying, wait a minute, did Nashawn Garrett actually make a world team? Yeah, he did. He beat Joe Colon, then he got hurt. I think it was a pec injury. He didn't get to wrestle at the World Championships. But the guy that he beat at Final X, Joe Colon, went on to win a world bronze medal. And Nashawn Garrett has, been a guy that's ranked in the top 20 in the world for a long time throughout his career. So those 2 senior level wins, just a slight step above the wins that PJ Duke has. So it's going to be Jax Forest. He's going to remain #1 pound for pound. PJ Duke going to pass Marcus Blaze, which is insane because Blaze has done a whole lot too, in his senior level career and in high school. But Forest is going to remain #1 for that reason. Here's the thing though, these guys are going to go to Final X, and not only are they going to try to wrestle for a spot on the senior world team, but they could be competing for the #1 spot in the country, pound for pound, in the high school rankings. If PJ Duke can beat Yanni, but Jax Forest loses to Vito, then PJ Duke's got the case to jump him. That's a senior level world medalist. But on the other hand, if Jax Forest gets the win over Vito and Yanni beats PJ, then Jax is going to be an even clearer case for that #1 pound for pound spot. How insane is it though to think that we're going to Final X, and not only are we trying to figure out who's going to be on the United States world team, but we're thinking about a high school ranking. This is insane. This shouldn't be, but it is. This is the group that we have coming through, and it is kind of funny and a little bit, ironic to think that it's Yanni and it's Vito who are going to be, the guys that are potentially in the conversation for who's going to be pound for pound, because these are guys that were looked at that way when they were coming through the high school ranks. These were guys that were on such a high level. They were part of such a great group that was coming through. The group in that around those classes included guys like Spencer Lee, Nick Suriano, Dayton Fix, all guys that have gone on to do incredible things. And now we're in the midst of another group just like that. This is a special time to be a high school wrestling fan. And if you're a college wrestling fan or a USA wrestling fan, you're not gonna stop hearing these guys' names for a really long time. So #1 spot right now belongs to Jax Forest. Here's why. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What do you think? Let us know in the comments. Tune in, Final X. It's a youth movement. You don't want to miss it. Can't wait to see what happens. See you there.